Happy New Year, everybody. I hope you had an amazing Christmas and New Year, whatever you were doing. And here we are in 2022. Well, as you can see, I have changed location. I'm in a brand new kitchen, in a brand new house. Richard and I moved house on the 17th of December, which was an interesting time of year to move, week before Christmas, and also Holly, my daughter's birthday. The move went really smoothly, and as far as house moves can go, we had a removal firm in, and we got the house pretty much unpacked within a couple of days, really. We're obviously missing blinds, light fittings, and all the usual things that take a while when you move in. But we're in, we're unpacked, and in fact we had a gorgeous Christmas here, really lovely, and we absolutely adore the new house. It's always a bit sad leaving a house. I do get quite attached to cars, obviously vans and houses, and it was a very long process, this house move. If you've watched my videos for a while, we actually sold our house in August. And we were intent on moving down to West Wales. We saw a couple of properties that we liked, and we pursued a couple of houses actually, but for one reason and another, they all fell through. And I think we got to the point where we were just delaying the people buying our house, and we started to think, is it worth moving? Should we just stay put? But I think we realised that this was an opportunity. So we gave up our West Wales dream, and we've ended up living only a few miles away from our old house. And in fact, I'm now living in a village where I spent my teenage years. And it's a lovely little village location. And the house we're in is a brand new house. There's about a small development. And as you can probably hear, because I can hear building work in the background, we are still living on a building site. It was very quiet over Christmas because obviously all the builders and construction workers had holidays, but they're all back now. It reminds me a bit of the film The Money Pit, a really good 80s film. A couple buy a house and they're just surrounded by builders for months. So it feels a bit like that here. But yeah, we love the house. We're really, really happy here. And yeah, just getting used to living in this style house. It's actually, it's a normal looking house from the front, 2 stories, but because the house is built on a slope, the kitchen that I'm in now is on, at the back anyway, the 2nd level. So we've got patio doors looking out over the garden, which is down below. And then there's some family room and Richard's office downstairs as well. But yeah, different way of living, but we are absolutely loving it. And I'll tell you more about the house in the weeks to come. But today, I really wanted to talk about a couple of things. And one of those is I wanted to say a really big hello to the new viewers I have had, and I did have quite a run before Christmas. I think 100 new subscribers. Hello to all of you. The reason for that was because I had a couple of mentions from another YouTube channel that I've recently got into, and it's called The Bold Explorer. And the guy who runs that channel is a really lovely guy called Richard Vobes. Extremely hard-working YouTuber. He puts out a lot of content. But I love the Bold Explorer channel. Check it out. I'll put a link in the description as well. He lives in Sussex, and he does a lot of exploring and walking in his local area and further afield. And he's got a camper van, but he calls it a camp-in van. And he's gradually doing work in there. So I sent him a message before Christmas and said, liked his channel, offered to knit him a hat, which he happily accepted. And he gave me a couple of mentions, which was absolutely really amazing. I'm so grateful. And so a lot of viewers who watch the Bold Explorer channel have come to subscribe to mine. So I hope you like what you see, guys. Thank you so much for joining, and thank you to Richard as well. As I said, check his channel out. He really interesting, and he's got experience in the sort of TV and video production, so his videos are really slick, and I've picked up a lot of tips. He does a lot of really good camera angles and a brilliant storyteller. So yeah, big shout out to the Bold Explorer. Another thing I wanted to talk about today was one of the Christmas presents I had this year. It's from my son Tom, who knows I love coffee, and normally, well, I've got a few different coffee machines on the go here now. Mocha Express is what me and Richard normally have, and we have a little small one in the van as well. I've heard about this device, which is called an Aeropress, and some of you may have one. It's quite popular with the hiking community and the camper van community, and I haven't tried it yet, so I thought you'd be the first to see how I get on. It looks like a giant syringe, actually. It's got filter papers, but according to the packaging, this sounds really interesting. Aeropress is a better coffee press because it's got a smoother, richer flavour with 1/9 of the acidity of using a cafetiere or French press. You can make hot coffees in here or cold brews, which would be really nice with the summer coming up. And importantly, cleanup is supposed to be really quick. And I've taken it all out of the packaging here. As you can see, very light, very compact. So I'll show you how I get on. First attempt, it looks pretty easy. So let's see how we go. Okay, so let's give this little coffee machine a test run. I've got the instructions in front of me. They look very straightforward. So this is the syringe part, and it says push the plunger out of the chamber. That's the plunger. And then you get these little filters, filter cap I should say, and then a little pack of, I think there's about 300 filters here. So these should last quite a while. So the filter goes inside there, then you twist the filter cap onto the chamber. Okay, that was easy enough. Stand the chamber on a sturdy mug. Okay, and then take your scoop of coffee, a rounded scoop inside the chamber. Okay. Shake to level the coffee. Okay, then you add water up to the 1. Okay. Then get a little stirrer. Stir it for about 10 seconds. But it says on the instructions, if you're making cold brew, stir it for a minute. It's about 10 seconds. Then put the plunger in and press gently until it reaches the grinds. You can hear air being forced out. Okay, that's not needing much resistance at all, actually. Okay, then that was quick. So then you untwist the filter cap, which still grinds there. Grinds are on this side. And push the plunger to, oh, that's brilliant, because that's always the worst bit for me, is cleaning the mocha pot with all the coffee grinds, particularly when I'm in the van. So they pretty much come out in one cake of coffee grinds with the filter paper, which can go in my food recycling. And then I just need to rinse the plunger and that. So I've got my little cup here of espresso. So the instructions say at this point I've got an espresso. If you want an Americano, top up with some more hot water. You can make a latte, obviously, add in your milk. And cold brew, you can add iced water. So I like mine Americano, so I'm going to add a little bit more hot water to this, and then we'll have a taste test. Cheers. That is smooth. And there's two things immediately I like about this little device. The lack of mess. It's so easy to clean because you put in pressure on the grinds. They come out sort of compact, so you can put them in the bin. They're not all dripping and getting coffee grinds everywhere. So I can see the appeal for campers and campervanners, caravanners, etc. That to me is a huge plus. And the other thing is, it is hot. To be fair, the mocha pot's also hot because it's sort of boiled. Some coffee makers make coffee that's not quite hot enough to my taste, because I do like it hot. But this, especially topped up with the boiling water there, is brilliant. So it is a thumbs up from me. Recommend. Welcome to my office area, editing space. Nice coffee. Yeah, one of the huge advantages of living in this house is we've all got a lot more space. I work from home, or at least I edit my YouTube videos at home. And Richard works from home, and my daughter Holly also works from home. And in the last house, we were all falling over each other a little bit and having to keep quiet, and it became quite difficult to go in the kitchen and make cups of tea because people were in there working. So in this house, we're all able to have our own space. And because it is sort of a 3-story house, we've got, we can be a bit more sort of free and talk, and I can film. I'm not disturbing anyone, which is wonderful. So this is the area I've got. It's at the bottom of the stairs that lead down to a sort of a living room down here and Richard's office. But it's a perfect corner for me. There's no daylight in here, but to be honest, that's fine. If I get a window, I'll get distracted easily. So I've got nice lamps, and I got my bookcase. I didn't really have a bookcase in my last house. So I can have all my books out now, and I'm loving that. And I've got this desk, which is perfect. So yeah, I'm really loving this little sort of space. And since, well, the last couple of days when I set this office up, I've been having a little look back at some of the videos I did during 2021. And I thought it would be nice just to do a sort of a quick review of the year, really, looking at the type of things that I've been filming and what I've been doing. I think one of the major things that I did in 2021, which I think helped give a new dimension to the videos, was I bought myself a drone. It's the DJI Mini 2. This is the drone. As you can see, it's really compact. You can stick it in your pocket really, because the propellers fold up. It's under 249 grams, which means you can fly it in far more places than you can some of the heavier drones. And as I said, quite easy to fly. So I adore this little drone, and I think during 2021, this little piece of equipment has really made the biggest difference to the videos that I put out. Of course, 2021, we were all still on lockdown during the early part of the year. And I had a job over lockdown as working as a cleaner in our local field hospital. And yeah, it was that job really that gave me the ability to buy the extra equipment. So I'm grateful for that. But it also meant that we were really restricted on where we could go. So Richard and I did a lot of walks from home during 2021. And we discovered some really interesting sort of urban exploring places to go. One of which was an abandoned quarry within walking distance of the house. And we were amazed. This was last February. And we really couldn't believe that all of this machinery and sort of plant were just there rotting away. Really interesting walk. And I know it's not everyone's cup of tea, rusty old industrial ruins, but we loved that. Another thing that we seem to have done a lot of, well, not a lot of, but that we have done more of in 2021 is wild camping, and not even in the bongo. We did a bit of walking from the house and we found another quarry, and very, very quiet, beautiful sort of location. And we went in Richard's hiking tent, did a bit of cooking over the campfire, walked from home, spent the night, and then walked back home the next day. And it was back to basics camping. But yeah, we really enjoyed that. And yeah, something we're going to do more of going forward. We've done a bit of cooking on fires this year, actually. Over the summer, we went to a local beach, Scare Beach, and took Teddy with us. It was a scorching hot day. And cooked burgers again, I think, over the fire. And then we did go to a campsite, but it was a campsite with a difference. It's called the Lone Wolf Campsite. And it's you can have a normal pitch there. You've also got the option that you can wild camp there. So we drove there in the van and then picked up our hiking bags, and then there's an area of woodland next to the river, and you can just choose anywhere and pitch up. And because I bought a hammock this year, I was very excited to try it out. It was lovely because you could really relax, because we knew we were allowed to stay there. Campfires are allowed, so we had this amazing campfire, and again cooked over the fire. But we had a great night there, and I absolutely loved the hammock. So yes, bring on more hammock camping this year. There also seems to have been a bit of a theme with lighthouses. I remember, I think it was quite early in the year, about April time, Richard and I got up really early to catch a sunrise over Porthcawl, which is our local seaside town. I think we were there by 5:30 in the morning, and we caught probably the drone footage I'm most proud of. Put the drone up around the lighthouse just as the sun was rising, and I still love looking at that footage. To me, it's everything that's possible with a drone. It's really quite mystical looking. And I've been to another paid campsite this year, which is something I tend not to do. I like, especially having a camper van, I love to go and find spots to wild camp. But I did pay for a campsite this year, but it was at Llangennith. I stayed there on my own for 2 nights, sort of June, July time. Lovely site. It wasn't school holidays, so it was a little bit quieter than it will be during school holidays. And I did some walking along the Wales coast path to Rhossili. And I attempted, because I'd picked up the Wales coast path book and I'd seen another lighthouse that I was determined to find. And it's out at sea, so you've got to walk when the tide is out, obviously, because it's about a mile out. It's called Whiteford Lighthouse, and it's made of cast iron, so really, really quite unusual. And I walked from my campsite to go and find this, but I got the tide times wrong. So when I actually arrived, and I walked miles, it took about 2.5, 3 hours to get there. I timed it completely wrong, and the tide was in, so there was no way I was able to go and see the lighthouse. It was just a tiny speck. But I wasn't deterred, so the next day on my way home, I parked somewhere else and got the tide times correct. And I was overjoyed when I got to Whiteford Point that the tide was indeed receding, and I was able to walk, as I say, about a mile out over sort of mussel beds to go and stand beneath this most amazing Gothic ruin. It's really quite incredible. Again, got the drone up to get a view. But yeah, it's honestly quite mystical again, this lovely lighthouse made of cast iron, the sea receding, and this beautiful structure, very, very much like piers, you know, when you see the piers rusting and kind of falling into the sea. So I was very pleased I made the effort to go back and see that lighthouse. I've also done a bit of walking this year, using public transport from home. So there was one day when I caught the bus from Bridgend and I went to Swansea and walked from then the bus station in Swansea, joined the Wales Coast Path, walked past Swansea Marina and past some really industrial relics along an old canal path, and then to this amazing, again, industrial pipes from an old chemical works on the beach. But the beach itself was totally deserted, and it was again a hot day and just lovely. I didn't see a soul for miles, and I eventually ended up in Port Talbot where I caught the bus home. And I think that's something I want to do more of this year, is exploring my local area, taking public transport, because there's so many, not just sort of coastal sites, but there's a lot of areas in my local town that I want to go and see, and sometimes it's easier to go on public transport because parking can be an issue in some of these places. Now, towards the autumn this year, while we were looking for houses in West Wales, we went to a little guest house in Tenby, which is in Pembrokeshire, a favourite town of Richard and I. We got married there 4 years ago. And although it was September, the weather was scorching hot. In fact, I think it was October. Very hot weather. And again, one of those moments with my drone, getting up very early in the morning to catch the sunrise over Tenby, which is in itself a stunning town. I don't think it's possible to take a bad photograph in Tenby because there's just around every corner, there's beautiful buildings, the sea, harbour, lifeboat stations, really gorgeous. But yeah, just again, that moment at dawn, the weather, the sky was clear, so we had a lovely couple of days there. And then of course at the end of the year, back in end of September, I set myself a challenge to spend 7 nights in the Bongo, with just £100 in my pocket to pay for fuel, food and car parks. And I did manage to achieve that. In fact, I spent less than 100. I think it was about £80 in the end. And that was for 7 nights with all my food included and fuel. And I was a little bit nervous about doing that because obviously with that budget, it did entail camping for free mostly in car parks and lay-bys. But I think once you go out there and you do that, if it's something you're interested in, you know, it's not as bad as you imagine. I didn't get moved on once. Nobody kind of looked at me in strange ways. And I was able to park in really lovely locations and explore the local towns and areas. And again, definitely something I want to do more of in the coming year. Probably one of the most stunning locations that Richard and I stayed in this year was another wild camp spot beside a reservoir at Talabont on Usk. We were so lucky with the weather, but an amazing park up, and the weather was so hot we could just walk down to the reservoir in the morning and have our breakfast. And yeah, just stunning. The reservoir itself was like glass. The weather, you know, it was just so still. And yeah, we really, really enjoyed that. Of course, there's been a few downs this year as well. And one of them was my annual MOT. I took the van and had the really bad news that some welding was needed under the van. So I had a big bill to contend with. And it just makes you realise when you do have an older van that unfortunately maintenance is going to be a recurring cost. It can be unpredictable. I think we all know bongos will rust, so it's inevitable that welding is going to be required. And it was a bit of a wake-up call, really. I really want to make the most of the bongo. It's given me so much joy this year. You know, probably used more for day camps this year than, you know, long-term trips. But even so, I love, you know, we have some lovely beaches around here, and I went down to a sunset down West Bay. And even in the winter, you know, it's just lovely to go off in the van. And I do absolutely love it. So it makes me worry that more money is going to be needed this year to get it through the MOT, etc. But I'm sure those of you with bongos or old camper vans can sympathise. But it doesn't put me off having it. It more than pays for itself with the joy and happiness it's given us. And since we've moved house, it has been a real workhorse. I don't know how many trips to the tip we've done in it over the last few months, clearing out the old house, taking cardboard and wrapping from the move over. I think we've done 3 trips to IKEA buying stuff for this house where we would never have got that stuff in a normal car. And yeah, it's just been an absolute beaut. I do love my bongo. Looking forward to lots more trips in the bongo this year. Well, I'm going to carry on editing the video, hopefully to go out Thursday this week. But before I go, if I can just ask, if you haven't already, please consider subscribing. I'm at almost the magic number. I've got 100 subscribers to go before I hit that magic number of 1,000. And it would be amazing if I could hit 1,000 subscribers this year. So please help me on my way. If you haven't already, under this video, click that little subscribe button. That would mean the world to me. Anyway, I will see you next week. Take care, everyone. Bye.
I love the strong.